I'm surprised we both didn't identify more with the, like, what, maybe because we're not in academia. I think if we were still in academia, we would be like, but we both left. So we knew George when he was like, what am I doing publishing all these papers? It's nonsense. And I'm like, it is, George.
It is. Like, we were across the table from him at the pub, and we're like, it is. Join us in the side of making a living on your own intellectual labor. Join us. It's great. It's great.
Would you like to go grow plants in Bioko? You will find it more rewarding than this slog. Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations.
We're the good doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Erin.
I'm Dr. Kristen.
You are very welcome to our continuing coverage of Equatorial Guinea for our month looking at Spanish colonies on the Colonizers World Tour. This is our last month for this year. This is our last stop for this year. Y'all, what a journey we've been on. We are up to our artistic critique and discussion for this week. And so for today, we've selected the film Where the Road Runs Out, which was the first feature film ever made in Equatorial Guinea. It was released in 2016, and it is available for watching on Tubi. Thank you to our friends at Tubi. And it is also in English, so no need for subtitles en Espanol. We have not a lot to say about this film, to be quite honest, because we didn't really care for it. It's the story of Dr. George Mensah, who finds out that his college friend Cheese, who was living on the island of Bioko in Equatorial Guinea, has passed away. And George has a moment of revelation and leaves his job as a lecturer in biodiversity in Rotterdam and moves to Bioko to rediscover himself and possibly his faith and what is his purpose on life.
And who among us hasn't just moved to Equatorial Guinea to find ourselves? Who among us?
Who is not tempted by that prospect? Yeah. It's a very cheesy film in terms of its sentiment.
Very saccharine. Yeah, very saccharine.
Yeah, if it was paced and acted better, it could have been made by Disney. There's a very strong moral compass in this film that is guiding you towards a lot of conclusions. Both of us didn't care for it so much, but we'll talk about it for a few minutes. Dr. Kristen, did you have anything specific you wanted to say about Where the Road Runs Out?
Well, the issue is if we start asking questions about the plot, it will completely unravel. So
Facts.
We won't.
No.
There's a lot that didn't need to happen to tell the story that they wanted to tell, and all of that is fine. However, for this to be the very first feature film shot in Equatorial Guinea, visually, it's stunning. Yeah. There's really good cinematography work. There's some really good giving us a scope of understanding about what life in Bioko is like. There's some, I would have appreciated a little bit more geography of like how long it takes to get places, because I have no concept of Bioko. But it's not a documentary. I started watching it as one because I couldn't watch it as a fictional film because I wasn't enjoying it. And so I started asking, like, what does this tell me about Equatorial Guinea?
Yeah, that's the question we have to ask, I think.
And it's interesting. I mean, for anybody who did not join us for the 101 video yesterday or has not any context for Equatorial Guinea, one of the there's so much terrible that happened in the history of this lovely place. And there's so much still happening. I appreciated the time we got to spend with some of the people of Equatorial Guinea, even though it was primarily, a Ghanaian man, a British woman, and
a South African white man.
A South African or Dutch white man. I can't decide which he was supposed to be.
He said he was from Cape Town.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Must have been one of the times that I just let my mind wander. But we did get a couple really interesting things. So at one point in the history of Equatorial Guinea, their dictator at the time overnight made religion illegal. Uh-huh. Overnight. Uh-huh. And it was an incredibly Catholic country before that. Spanish colony. Also, sub-Saharan Africa often has deep ties. Cultures have deep ties to whatever spirituality that particular area has, whether it's animism, or a Western religious system, or something in between, or something else. So I really loved the focus on church on a level, because there's okay, no, they tried to take this from us, but I'm telling this story and I'm telling you church is important. Yeah. And I'm telling you that faith is important. And I'm telling you that no matter what got stripped from us, this is still important to some of us. Mm-hmm. And I found that to be really, really important for us to understand, and appreciated its inclusion into the story. Would have liked some of the stems of that teased out more, for sure. This is a great movie that probably had 45 minutes worth of plot. And they stretched it to an hour and a half, which is their choice. But what happened at that point is, because there isn't a really solid through line where they had proper pacing, we just kind of meandered for an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then raced through a ton in the last 20.
Oh boy, everything got resolved in that last 20 minutes real quick.
Including that George has nowhere to live now because his house burned down. Is he now living with the Catholic nun, not a nun missionary? I have so many questions. I can't start asking them because we're going to be here forever.
Don't start with the questions, because we'll never stop.
So I was glad to visually see Equatorial Guinea, and we've watched a lot for the 101 video, so I knew a lot about the context, but seeing the visuals was lovely. So that was my favorite part of the movie. I didn't really, and the young actor who played the orphan boy Jimmy was
adorable,
wonderful.
He was really cute. Yeah, I think as you were talking about that, what's really interesting, right, is we've studied a lot of places on this. I'm feeling reflective as we close off this
the Colonizers World Tour 2021.
We've studied a lot of places, and they, a lot of them don't have happy stories to tell, Equatorial Guinea being one of them. We've studied a lot of places in Africa, particularly Angola and Mozambique, who had very violent, more recent pasts, post-colonial violence. And so did Equatorial Guinea. And, there's a lot of stories that you could tell about that. And I think this is the important point of this, is this is the story that they chose to tell. And it wasn't necessarily specifically about Equatorial Guinea or anything that happened to Equatorial Guinea. And so, that's why we see so much value in watching art produced by humans from the places that we go to, because as outsiders, we would think the stories you want to tell would be the documentary Invasion that we talked about for Panama. Of course you want to talk about the invasion of U.S. troops in Panama, but that's, as an outsider, that's what we would see as interesting or valuable. And this story didn't resonate with you or I in terms of the crafting of it. But I think it's just important to note that this is clearly a very important story to the people that told it. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people that would resonate with it, whether they're aligned with that faith system, any faith system or not. And so because it's not overtly if he didn't, there's a couple really clear shots of a crucifix necklace
They head to church. But like, other than that, it really is more a generic morality.
Yeah, it wasn't preachy.
Yeah.
In a way, to use that descriptive adjective. It was clearly guided by some of those moral principles.
Yeah.
But like, not in a way that was like, you know,
there was no, as we would say, there's no altar call at the end of it. No one asked you to dedicate your life to Christ.
Right. It wasn't like any brand of Christianity it wasn't like, oh, I was able to come to this realization because of Methodism, you know, like it wasn't. So that was interesting, but I think like it was a well-made film in terms of like, clearly they had good cameras and like a full crew and like all of that stuff. It wasn't choppy or it was cinematic in a lot of ways, and they chose to tell this story. So like, you know, cool.
Yeah. Just for my personal movie-going taste, I don't mind the story at all.
Yeah.
For me, it was the pacing.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, the acting wasn't great. Just wasn't great, especially the nunnish lady.
None of them were good.
But
Jimmy wasn't good. He was adorable. I don't think
Jimmy was a kid. Yeah, he wasn't great. He was a kid. But I don't mind this story, especially as a burned out academic who just wants to go somewhere and matter. I get it. And, you know, I like this idea of trying to live up to a friend's legacy. There's a lot of great potential here, just in how I like to consume my art. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, same. I know. I was surprised we both didn't identify more with the like what. Maybe because we're not in academia. I think if we were still in academia, we would be like, but we both left. So we knew George when he was like, what am I doing publishing all these papers? That's nonsense. And I'm like, it is, George. It
is. Like, we were across the table from him at the pub and we're like, it is. Join us in George. The side of making a living on your own intellectual labor. Join us. It's great.
Would you like to go grow plants in Bioko? You will find it more rewarding than this slog. Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations.
We're happy to see another person liberated from the academy.
Honestly. In my own reflection, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think more than anything, what we have been continually reminded this year is just a little bit of a nuance to what Dr. Aaron said, that the best stories are the smallest ones.
Yeah.
And that there are humans everywhere. And that's the point of all of this, is to know humans better. And so they shot this at a village called SOS Children's Villages, and that's an international nonprofit that sets orphans up in a village environment and in very communal communities so that they are used to still living in village life. And it's a well-reputable organization. I don't have any personal interactions with them, but I've heard of SOS for years. And just like every nonprofit, I hear terrible things and beautiful things. So, you know, I've heard of them for years, and they used SOS Bioko land. And it wouldn't surprise me if some of those kids were SOS orphans, to be completely honest. And so, and I think that one Equatorian Guinean woman was probably an SOS employee, would be my guess. The one with the clerical collar. So there's some really lovely small moments to be reminded that, like, as I can rattle off the poverty rate of Equatorial Guinea, I can now also remember that there's an SOS village on Bioko. Yeah. And it is taking care of children whose lives have been decided for them in so many ways, and providing them with family and dignity and respect and skill sets and all the other things, we hope, that villages like this would provide for people regardless of their blood family ties. Systemically, Equatorial Guinea isn't great. It's not. There's a lot of systemic issues, but we haven't seen anything that tells us that the Equatorial Guinea people think they deserve that. Or, aren't angry about the way that their president is running things, as we covered yesterday. So, and the same with the people of Papua New Guinea, the same with the people of Fiji and Guam, and honestly, even Japan, which is still, I think, the only place on the planet that's never been fully conquered. It's like
it Japanned all over everything during
Japan and Thailand. No, Japan was conquered by China, so it's like Thailand is the only place that's never been conquered.
Never been conquered.
It's just economically colonized by the U.S. and the U.K. But so even there. And the researchers in Antarctica. I mean, we've sat with hundreds of thousands of stories in the last 6 months. And what I have learned more than anything else, and I can't wait to dig into season 2 of this for us. And we'll see you guys again in March. Just really briefly, let's say that. We'll see you the first week of March for this particular series as we look at... as we focus on some countries that we learned about this year and also introduce new countries. We're finally going to be talking about Ireland, actually.
Yay!
And India.
Yay!
Is to remember that throughout time and history and geographical location, humans are humans. And they crave to be known more than anything else. And known and loved and connected, and that's what Jimmy in this movie wanted. That's what George in this movie wanted. That's what Dead Behind the Eyes Nun wanted. That's what they all wanted. And it's a really good, even though, like, I mean, you know, we've slammed this movie enough. We can move on, but that would be our hope for you. Until we see you again on this series. I mean, we hope we see you again for our other series. But if this is your highlight and you join us again next year, our hope for you is that you can remember and carry that we're all made of stories. And we know each other better through them and through asking questions and through knowing them. And it's been a ride. It has been a ride.
It has been a time. Yeah, I can't think of anything better than to end on that hope. So we thank you so much for joining us, whatever you've joined us for on, you know, the first book of the Colonizers World Tour, the first season. Next season, we will be back in March sharing global women's stories because it is Women's History Month and many other things. So we hope to see you then. And also for whatever the next video is on our YouTube playlist. Make sure that if you enjoyed this content, you comment and tell us your thoughts and feelings. If you know information about Equatorial Guinea, if you're from Equatorial Guinea, if you've come across this 5 years from now, hello from the past, tell us your thoughts. Please do all of the YouTube-y things of liking and subscribing and sharing and clicking that bell so you don't miss a thing. It really does help us know you better and help the algorithm help us. So do all of those things, and we hope to hear from you soon.
All the best, guys.